I want to share something that still makes my stomach tighten every time I think about it. It happened a few years ago, when I traveled to Prague, Czech Republic, for what I thought would be the vacation of a lifetime. I had dreamed about this trip since college: Gothic architecture, cobblestone streets, misty bridges crossing the Vltava River. I spent weeks planning. Booked my flight, found a charming-looking hotel online, one that promised historic atmosphere and authentic old-world charm. But what I got was something that should not exist. It was late November, just as winter was setting in. When my plane landed at Václav Havel Airport, the sky was already dark, though it was only around 5:40 p.m. The air outside was icy, my breath visible in the glow of taxi headlights. The drive from the airport into the old city was like stepping into a storybook: stone bridges draped in fog, orange street lamps glowing against wet cobblestones, the silhouettes of spires and domes in every direction. The taxi dropped me off in Staré Mesto, the Old Town district. The driver said little, only glancing once at the hotel and muttering something in Czech I didn't understand. The hotel itself looked ancient, wedged between two narrow shops, one a bakery with windows fogged from heat, the other a bookstore that appeared closed for years. The hotel sign creaked in the cold wind. Inside, the lobby smelled faintly of mildew. A chandelier hung overhead, but only half its bulbs worked. Behind the front desk sat an old man in a brown sweater, his face pale under the yellow light. I gave my name. He paused, tapping the register with long fingers before saying softly, "You booked room 6. Something in his tone made me uneasy, but I smiled politely and took the heavy brass key. The hallway carpets were worn, patterned in reds and golds that had faded into brown. Portraits lined the walls, their eyes following me as I walked to the far end of the corridor. Room 6 was the last door on the left. The key jammed at first, the lock stiff as though it hadn't been used in years. When I finally pushed the door open, a wave of cold, damp air hit me. The smell was sharp: old wood, mold, and something metallic underneath. The room was large, with 14-foot ceilings, faded wallpaper, and a canopy bed covered in dark red curtains. A tall wardrobe leaned slightly in one corner. And across from the bed, angled just so, stood a full-length mirror in a gilded frame. Its glass seemed darker than normal, like a shadowed window. The single window in the room didn't overlook the lively street as the listing promised. Instead, it faced a narrow alley, choked in darkness even though it was barely 7 p.m. I tried to shrug it off. I told myself it was part of the historic charm. I unpacked, took a long hot shower, and went out for dinner at a small tavern nearby, Svikova with dumplings and a local beer. By the time I got back to the hotel around 10:15 p.m., the streets were empty, slick with rain. The radiator in the room wasn't working. I piled on blankets, scrolling on my phone to distract myself from the unsettling quiet. That's when I heard it. A faint dripping sound from the bathroom. When I checked, the sink was dry. Yet the mirror above it was fogged as if someone had just showered. I wiped it clear with my sleeve, but within seconds the steam returned, slowly forming the shape of a hand pressed against the glass. I stumbled back, heart pounding, whispering to myself, "I'm just tired. Just jet-lagged." When I returned to bed, I noticed the full-length mirror in the corner had shifted slightly. Its reflection was aimed directly at me now. The next morning, 8 a.m., the city looked brighter, almost normal. I wandered through Old Town Square, watched the astronomical clock strike the hour, and had breakfast, coffee and fresh pastry, from a cafe overlooking Charles Bridge. The whole day, I tried to shake off the unease. I toured Prague Castle, walked through misty gardens, and snapped photos of Gothic towers piercing the sky. But when I returned around 6:40 p.m., the same heavy dread settled over me. That night, I noticed scratches on the inside of my room door, long gouges, like fingernails dragged desperately against wood. Around 2:30 a.m., I was woken by voices outside my door. Low, whispering in Czech. When I opened it, the hallway was empty, portraits glaring in silence. As I crawled back into bed, half asleep, the mattress dipped beside me. Slowly. Like someone had lain down. The air smelled faintly of earth, damp and rotten. The third night was the worst. I woke suddenly, no reason why. The room was silent, but not still. The air felt charged, electric, like before a storm. My eyes drifted to the full-length mirror. And that's when I saw it. In the reflection stood a figure. Tall. Gaunt. Its head tilted to one side, limbs stretched unnaturally long. But the space in front of the mirror was empty. Its hands pressed against the glass, smearing dark streaks as though trying to push through. My breath caught in my throat. I couldn't move. Couldn't scream. Then its head snapped toward me, like it knew I was awake. A crack split the glass from top to bottom. The whispering returned, clear now, directly in my ear. You shouldn't be here. I grabbed my bag without even checking what I packed. I bolted down the hallway, portraits watching me with twisted smiles that hadn't been there before. At the desk, the old clerk didn't look surprised. He just shook his head slowly and muttered in broken English. You should not have stayed in 6. When I demanded answers, he raised one hand, silencing me. His eyes were cold. Leave. Now. And so I did. That night, I checked into another hotel, no matter the price. I didn't even care. I left my suitcase and clothes behind in room 6. When I returned home, I tried to look up the hotel online. But I couldn't find it. The booking confirmation had disappeared from my email. Even my bank statement showed no charge. It was as if the place had never existed. But I know what I saw. I know what I heard. And sometimes, late at night, when I look into my bedroom mirror too long, I swear I see a shadow, standing just behind my reflection. If you ever travel, and find a hotel that seems too perfect, too cheap, too untouched by reviews, be careful. Because some rooms are never meant to be booked. And some guests never leave.